The cross supports are all installed, but they've just been tabbed in and covered over. Now it's time to go back through and complete the installation by using layers of fiberglass to cover over all of the meeting points. The next step is to fill in the gaps here with a custom-made fiberglass peanut butter material. Not only are we going to be filling in the gaps, but we're also going to be coving the angle so that the fiberglass doesn't have to try and bend over a 45-degree angle. In order to make the fiberglass peanut butter material, I take a little paper cup and add about 1/8 to 1/4 cup of resin. To the resin, we're going to add a couple of spoonfuls of some chopped strand that we've chopped up into a container. I like it to be about 1/4-inch size pieces, so 2 nice scoops of that or 1 big scoop. You want to add a decent amount of that material. Get that mixed up a little bit, and then the next we want to add a little bit of the powderized Q-cell material, and this is a machine milled fiberglass powder that's used to reinforce for applications just like this. You want to be very careful when mixing this material as it is very fine and lightweight, and you do not want to breathe it in. Make sure you use it in a well ventilated area or use a dust mask that can handle fine particulate material. For this application, I like to make the mixture fairly thick, a peanut butter kind of consistency, because I'm going to be putting it upside down into these crack areas, and I don't want it to sag and all run out. A little bit of the fibers will hang as you're applying it, but keep pushing them back in and keep working the material into the cracks, and use the back side of the spoon to smooth it out. You want to create a nice coved angle that'll make it a lot easier for the fiberglass to fold over those edges. Once this is all set up, we'll have to come back in and sand it all smooth in preparation for laying up several layers of 1708 fiberglass material. And now it's time to reinforce all the cross supports with 2 more layers of 1708. So the first thing that I do, of course, I've sanded all these areas down a little bit just to remove any rough points using laminating resin, so I don't have to sand in between layers. But in this case I did, just because we had a couple of high points, and just keep it a little bit smooth. And so here I'm wetting the surface before we lay down the fiberglass, and I found that I get really excellent adhesion of the layers if I flip the piece over. 1708 has a woven on one side and chop strand on the other. Here I've got the chop strand side up, and I just go ahead and wet it down, and then flip it over, put it into position, and then wet the other side of the surface. And this makes sure that I get plenty of resin on the underside of the material. Otherwise, if you're not careful, chop strand sometimes doesn't let the resin get all the way through the layers. You really got to work it in to get it all the way through to the other side. So this is just another way to make sure that everything gets covered really well. I see a lot of folks using stippling brushes when they're applying the resin. I really like using a roller like this because I can come in once the roller's dry afterwards and suck up any excess resin. I don't have to use a fin roller, and compared to a stippling brush, I can get large areas done quite quickly, and the results are real nice. Once these pieces cure a little, I like to come in with a sander and knock down the edges a little bit, just to avoid having any sharp edges exposed. You can see my arm got a little bit cut because I did brush up against a piece that I had missed in one of my previous sanding adventures. The fiberglass peanut butter material underneath these cross supports has cured very nicely and is very, very strong. I come in with the sander and again knock down all the little high points and some of the sharp edges in preparation for coming in with some fiberglass. Using a roller to wet up these surfaces before I lay down the supporting layers of 1708 fiberglass. so much easier to put these little reinforcement strips in when I pre-impregnate them with resin. Now that the cross supports are all glassed in, it's time to start working on the deck. At this point, we're dealing with the realities of being on a little island in the middle of the Pacific and one step away from Oahu. We're waiting for 4 sheets of Divinasil foam to be delivered from California. See you next time.